summons requiring Vice President Sara Duterte to respond to her impeachment charges. They argue that the trial must proceed without delay, citing existing impeachment rules. For his part, Escudero says the Senate will review the request before taking action. Senator Amy Marcos says she has not left her brother, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s slate, Alianza para sa Bagong Pilipinas. This even after the president did not mention her at recent rallies in Cavite and Laguna. The senator says she is yet to speak to her brother about the issue, as she has been focused on the Senate hearing on former President Duterte's arrest.
Speaker Martin Romualdez has approved Davao City 1st District Congressman Paulo Duterte's travel clearance for the period March 20 to May 10. The clearance covers travel to 16 countries plus Hong Kong, the others being the United States, China, Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And Senator Bato claims that the PNP has recalled his security detail, which he only learned upon returning to Davao City. But the PNP refutes this, with their Public Information Office dismissing this as fake news. Malacanang also questions this, with Press Officer Claire Castro saying, "How can we give him security if he's missing?"
Tumatawa na siya. Okay. Introduce mo na.
Sinabihan ako na maging subdued eh.
Okay. Subdued, hindi subjugated. Ko naman.
Subjudice.
Joining us today, Storycon Subdued resident political analyst, Pandit, Tito Raul Llamas.
And from the Philippine Star, Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Hi, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Iba naman ang attire
Sabi
niya.
naman, ikaw talaga?
Iba naman. Iba, tingnan mo. Iba sa kahapon.
How would you
yan,
describe
plain
that?
yan, ha? Walang dekorasyon yan ngayon, ha? Wala. Plain.
Hindi naman.
Come on, say it. What?
Midway between relax and power dressing.
Wow, that's a nice way to put
Pwede ka
it.
ng pwede ka ng fashion editor, ha?
Nice.
Bakit kami hindi mo nasasabihin ng ganyan?
Mood and academic kayo.
Kami yung moot. Si Ed yung moot, ako yung academic.
Hirap talagang bigyan ng security pag nawawala eh.
Actually, that's a good point, no? So, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says, paano bibigyan ng security if nawawala siya? Nawawala nga ba siya? I mean, he's around. He gives statements every day.
Yeah. Well, also the question is, kasi I'm sure that he's had security for the longest time since he became a senator. Even before he became a senator, he was a PNP chief.
Yeah, pero may police kwan yan eh. Police security.
Oo.
Siyempre, ayaw niya malaman kung nasaan siya. Siya naman ang nagsabi na nagtatago siya because of a possible warrant of arrest. Sa kanya naman ang galing yun. Hindi naman ang galing kay Ed Lingaw yun.
Hindi naman niya sinabi nagtatago na siya. Ang sinabi lang niya, maaari siyang it's one consideration that he keeps open.
And he
as
will-
an option.
he
Ayun yung problema rito eh. Yung mga salita, katulad ng forthwith, ang daming interpretation.
Dami kasi
Baka siya yung himuwalay sa security niya, di ba? Kasi tama yung Malacanang eh. Nagtago ka eh, paano kang bibigyan ng security? Baka siya yung hindi makita na security niya ngayon.
sabi niya, if I understood correctly, dalawang security officers daw in Davao yung na-pull out. So, I don't know if it's...
Kasi nalaman lang daw niya when he got to Davao.
Yeah.
Nasaan yung security niya on his way to Davao?
Dapat lagi mong kasama yun eh.
closed
Di
in
ba?
security.
Kasama mo yun close in yun Kaya siya yung himawalay sa security niya. Kasi remember, kung sakaling may arrest warrant, ang magsaserve nun is PNP I'm sure iniisip niya rin yun.
Yeah,
Halimbawa, nung
true.
cabinet secretary ako yung nag-request na tanggalin yung police security ko. Ano, medyo uncomfortable ako eh. Pag may police security.
Kaya katuloy nahulihan ng AK-47.
Anim yung naka-assign sa akin nun eh. Uncomfortable ako. Yung police ba na ito, igagwardyahan ako, hulihin ako.
Huli ka na, bibili ka ng DVD.
Oh, so, ayun na tayo. Naku, that's a
Tsaka
big
hindi ba,
issue. So,
you will be notified Kasi that's government-issued security. You will be notified, di ba, kung ipupull out yung security mo.
Yes.
pero ang problema yata ni Ronald, di ba? He doesn't trust the security. Para ibang issue na yun.
Kasi kung
Ikaw
makita
talaga, you're putting words into my mouth eh. Yun ang
DVD, di ba?
Kasi bumibili siya ng DVD. Bawal naman talaga yun.
Hindi, ang sabi nga sa akin, PNP intelligence daw yung kumuha ng picture.
talaga?
At saka nilabas sa media.
Talaga?
Well,
Ay,
sabi lang.
picture of
Sabi
you.
lang naman.
Kasama
Kasama yung aking 2 daughters. No? Ikaw ba, hindi ka bumibili ng DVD?
Dati?
Oo.
Oh, no. I invoke my right to against self-incrimination. No. You're not gonna trap me like that. Hindi pwedeng self-incrimination dito.
Yung nasa port area dati. Tanong mo yan. Yung nasa port area dati.
Ayun, and katakapit bahay lang namin yung nagbebenta doon ng mga DVD.
Pupunta pa ka ng bahay
Nandun
yung mga
sa
yun.
tapat namin eh. Maya't-maya pinaparadyo na US Embassy kasi malapit yung US Embassy ron eh.
Ross Boulevard lang eh.
Buti wala
nagrereklamo
ng
sila,
DVDs.
dami-daming DVD. Pero
Okay na ba?
nawala yun, matagal nang nawala yun.
Pupunta pa sa kanya yun. Pupunta sa mga opisina, sa bahay, kumakatok pa yun.
Nagpupunta sila sa loob ng opisina.
Oo.
Pero
Kaya pag
tinigil eh, pinalitan ng mga ng mga sewing machine.
Oo.
Sewing machine. Ano sewing machine?
Pinalitan na sewing machine.
Kaya pag si Reg, sinabi niya, hindi siya bumibili, tawagin ko siya ipokrita.
Bakit may pictures ka of me buying?
Ano nga siya?
Okay, Tab.
Parang
Sabi ni,
US policy nga na nuclear weapons neither confirm nor deny.
neither confirm
Alam
nor
ko,
deny.
merong kolumnista, nagsulat ng napanood niya eh. She got a letter from sabi, hindi pa napapalabas yan sa Pilipinas, paano ka nakapanood niyan?
Oo nga naman. Oo nga naman.
Okay, let's talk about the travel clearance ni Congressman Duterte.
Yes.
Ang daming countries, we didn't expect this, 16 countries plus Hong
Mga
Kong.
European, mga European trip, di ba? Baka kung papunta siyang Europe, dadaan siya ng Middle East, baka ganon.
Kaya yung mga
Medyo
chismis na
marami-rami.
yung mga chismis na uprising, na disruption, mukhang wala na yun eh.
Kaya na nga.
At least not for the next 1 month. Dahil yung mga rallying point, yung isa nakakulong, nasa Den Haag. Tapos yung Vice President, sa April pa daw uuwi. Tapos si Pulong, pupunta pa ron.
Hindi ba magpapalitan sila? He's going, tapos she's coming back?
Yung sabi ni Vice President mismo, April pa siya.
Okay.
Pwede
April
naman
na next week.
Pwede naman magbago isip eh. No? Siyempre,
Hindi,
hihintayin
baka
niya si Pulong.
magkikita-kita sila for birthday ni President Duterte on Friday.
That's on Friday.
Kaya pupunta doon si Hanilet and Veronica.
Yes.
Kitty.
Correct.
Kitty.
Pupunta sila doon.
At may announcement ng International Day of Prayer. International na around the world, magdadasal sila.
Actually,
For what?
I saw a blogger post about it. Marami na daw prayer rallies, International Day of Prayers across the world. From Europe to Australia to Asia to the US. Hindi ko lang alam if they'll see
For the birthday.
during the birthday.
Kaso parang
I
hindi
mean, coinciding pala with the birthday.
Kaso parang hindi prayerful si Digong eh.
Oo nga eh. May mga pag may problema ka, you find religion.
Di ba?
Baka naman, I mean,
Tinawag pa
now
nga
he's
niya.
had
Kaya may
time to
problema.
reflect.
You find religion, di ba? When you're
may
in trouble.
repentance.
Kaya nga.
Oo.
Kaya nga.
Mea culpa,
Wala
maxima
naman.
culpa.
Wala
Sa
naman.
Bible
Holy
says.
Week, ano ngayon Lent ngayon Ronald, magpabait ka.
Hindi,
Lent ngayon.
Hindi ko naman sinasabi na wala siyang road to Kairos, di ba?
Oo na.
Oo. Hindi ko naman sinasabi yon. Pwede naman siyang tamaan ng kidlat sa loob ng preso.
Repentance.
Saka hindi naman siya, di ba? Agnostic siya. Agnostic sabi niya.
Exactly.
Oh, minumura nga niya yung God,
Kaya
di ba?
pwede siyang gumanon. Pwede siyang gumanon eh.
Oh, pero dapat
Diba?
wag niya lang murahin yung Diyos.
Yun na nga. Hindi siya nagmumura ngayon.
But yun nga, nevertheless, there's a lot. I saw the list. It was a long list across the world. I don't know lang, yun nga. We don't know ilang tao, how many people will turn up.
Pag tinawag mo kasing stupid si God, baka sumagot.
Do we agree na there's, do we agree na yung OFW base ni Digong, ni Duterte, remains strong? Or it's diminished din?
Yes, dahil yung survey naman na support sa kanya na below 50% ay yung approval rating ay kasama naman dyan ng OFW. Pero wag natin kalimutan, 12 to 14 million ng mga OFW. So in the scheme of things ay hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin na majority yan. Lalo na in the light nung last survey ng SWS na mas
51%
marami.
approval for
Yes.
holding him accountable.
Yes.
And remember, malakas din ang base sa OFW nila Marcos. Remember that. Everywhere they go, malakas pa rin ang suporta nila.
Although I wonder how things have changed ngayon nagkahiwalay yung dalawa.
Yes.
Yes,
Diba?
yun na nga. Kaya nga, yung kanya-kanyang base na yan, makikita natin kung kanino talaga yung numbers. Kasi nung pinagsama sila, talaga napakalakas eh.
Kanya-kanyang ngayon sila, kanya-kanyang narrative. Pero ang mahalaga ngayon ay yung silent majority At lumalabas yan sa survey. They don't necessarily go to
Yes.
rallies. No? Pero nandyan sila, meron silang opinions, at nilalabas nila yan sa mga surveys. So, yun ang mahalaga. Siguro yung next survey tungkol dito, wala pang survey about sa arrest eh. Makikita natin yung impact.
Medyo matagal pa yun. Hindi,
April.
first quarter. April pa.
April, lalabas
pa.
siya.
1 month pa.
Yes.
Actually,
End of the month pa yun.
Actually, yung iba
Kaya
nag-field
medyo
work na eh.
matagal-tagal.
Yung iba nag-field work na. Alam ko, Okta nag-field work na ngayon eh.
For the survey,
Yeah.
yung post
Yes.
post arrest. Pero it's interesting to see na yun nga malakas pa rin yung base amongst the OFWs. You may dispute numbers kung ilan actually turned up sa Den Haag,
Yeah.
but it's still in the thousands, right? And the
Well,
people there, the locals there were curious as to why this was happening. Kasi in their minds, this is a crime against humanity
Yeah.
suspect. So
Sabi ni Richard Haydaria, nasa Den Haag siya. Tatanong ko siya kung
Kung sabihin niya, baka mamaya, hanapin
dumugin siya.
okay.
Sabi niya, nandun daw siya. Nakita daw niya rally, mga 1,000 daw.
Okay.
Rally,
Oh.
Depende naman sa kuha yan eh. Halimbawa, yung 30,000
At saka,
na nag-rally
lahat
sa
naman
Davao.
ng presidente natin, they maintain a solid base even after retirement,
Yes.
di ba?
Yes.
Kahit si Erap, nung nakakulong meron siyang solid base actually na medyo, medyo malaki. Even GMA, she retained a solid
we saw that with
base
the
na...
press and the Sitio Malacanang.
Huwag niyo kalimutan, nung tumakbo si Erap for the second time as
He almost
president, number 2 siya.
Oh,
Number 2
Yes.
siya.
Oo.
talo pa niya si Villar.
Walang makinarya, wala masyadong resources, walang endorsement ng iglesia. Pero siya yung ikalawa
Yes.
kay Pinoy.
Kung hindi yumao si Cory at tumakbo si
Baka nanalo pa siya.
naging presidente rin si Erap
Yeah.
at yung mga nagawa ng mga story against him.
Alam ko, more than 10 million siya.
And this was pre-social media era,
Yes.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So wala yung, paano sila nagmo-mobilize? This was before.
Parang yung rally dun sa Davao for Digong. Si Digong was a mayor forever sa Davao. Kaya yung 30,000 is not surprising. Pero ang population ng Davao is 1.5 to 1.6. Huwag natin kalimutan yun.
Meron talaga silang solid base. Pero nabubuwag din, Ronald? Look what happened to San Juan,
Yes.
Bailiwick of the
Natalo sila.
Estradas. Tingnan nyo, mukhang malakas na talaga yung control ngayon ng mga Samora doon. Kaya pwede rin siyang mabuwag.
Dati, unimaginable.
Dalawang Estrada nga ang nasa
That's true.
nasa Senate
Pero
ngayon.
you also have to remember, si Erap chose kasi to run for Manila Mayor. So I suppose from the point of view of the people
He ran for president as
of
well.
San Juan.
Yeah.
That's true. But yun nga, but eventually he ran for mayor eh. So maybe from the point of view of the people from San Juan, parang binitawan mo kami, lumipat ka ng ibang
Oo nga,
bayan.
iniwanan mo kami. Pwede rin. Pwede rin.
And that could partly explain what happened in San Juan, that the Estradas lost their grip over San Juan.
Pero halimbawa sa Davao, kahit manalo si Digong, hindi siya makakapag-serve as mayor. So pwede yung vice mayor mag-assume. Hindi naman ganun ka-popular pa si Baste sa Davao. No? Kaya nga siya ginawang vice mayor from being mayor eh. Dahil alam na pwede siyang talunin eh. No? So magka-create siya ng ibang dynamics sa Davao dahil wala na si Digong.
Oo nga, this is going to be a very interesting midterm elections coming up. But for now, let's bring in our first guest. We have House Assistant Majority Leader, Congressman Jude Isidre. Congressman, welcome to Storycon.
Hi sir, magandang hapon po.
Ay, Congressman.
Good afternoon, Congressman.
Sir, you're on
yata
mute.
kayo.
Magandang
There you
hapon
go.
po sa lahat. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. To kick off, let me ask you what your assessment was of the hearing,
TRICOM.
the TRICOM hearing the other day. What did you take away from it, and how do you think you guys did?
Well, if you ask me, it was a good opportunity to present the phenomenon of fake news, or let's just say
Itaas
disinformation
nga,
from a more objective manner. Parang nakita natin talaga. I can remember this might be the first formal opportunity na to go head on with fake news purveyors. Yung nasabi talaga natin, yung ginagawa ninyo ay fake news talaga. And I think it's going to be the start. If we were to take it from the comments on social media, especially on the post, yung coverage ng mainstream media, no, makikita talaga natin na people are somewhat we were able to provide clarity to the issue of social media disinformation.
But sir, can I take a step back a bit lang? Can you refresh us on what the objective is of all the hearings? Kasi we've been hearing some things, like for example, the possibility of a legal framework on disinformation. I don't know if that's correct. As well, the possibility as well of a code of ethics of some sort. I suppose for social media. But can you give us a refresher on exactly what the objectives are?
Well, simply put, no, the main objective talaga nung TRICOM is to look into this phenomenon of fake news, especially in social media. Nakita naman natin in recent months, in recent years, there has been this upsurge of this surge of social media disinformation, and I think many of our colleagues, including myself, have started to really feel the need to address the phenomenon of this occurrence of social media disinformation, and hopefully take steps not to prevent this from further eroding not only individuals, the reputation of certain individuals, but more importantly, the reputational integrity of our social and political institutions.
Malinaw naman na yung main objective is in aid of legislation ng TRICOM hearing. Pero magpo-propose din ba kayo ng mga legal cases against some of those na umamin na sila ay purveyor ng fake news at saka disinformation?
Sec, hindi natin pinapangunahan, no, yung chairpersons ng committee, but our understanding is we will come up with a committee report, and definitely this will be one of the steps to be considered, filing cases for those who have been found to have pushed for or circulated false information in social media. But then again, just to na hindi tayo masyadong mawala sa focus as in aid of legislation, there are proposals that are being studied right now as to what particular course of action in terms of regulation or in terms of education may be warranted para lang ma-resolve natin at ma-address natin itong surge ng fake disinformation in social media.
Can you give us an idea kung ano yung mga proposal na yan? Kasi yun ang tinatanong mga tao eh. Kasi there's an ongoing debate nga on how much you can regulate content. Kahit sa ang platform, di ba? Ano ba yung mga nabubuo na ngayon sa isip ninyo na doables?
Miss Ami Sakoan, si Congresswoman Roman has her own proposal for oversight council, parang MTRCB na will take into consideration social media. Ako naman, we have a proposal for a national Digital Responsibility Oversight Board. So ang framework na we're working at, alam naman natin ang mga social media platforms, they have their own respective terms and conditions and also community standards. And these are actually made available to everyone as soon as you create your own social media account on such platform. Pero ang nangyayari, there has been quite of a challenge itong reporting ng mga false information kasi minsan kailangan ng maraming steps, hindi siya ganun kadali, ka-efficient. No? At the same time, wala namang real life consequences. Kumbaga, the worst that could happen is your social media account will be suspended or terminated. But what we're looking at, using the framework provided for in the terms and conditions of the said social media platforms, as well as the community standards that they adhere to, maybe we can look at making sure that look at the possibility of instituting also certain civil or criminal liabilities, especially when the issue does not only harm individuals, but more importantly, can result in social instability or effects that would impact the society as a whole.
The initiatives that you're mentioning, Congressman, so far it sounds like puts the burden on the user Uh, why is there any effort at all to try to hold the social media platforms more accountable? Because there's two ways to go about it, right? Either you hold the social media platforms more accountable and liable, or you regulate the user. Which way are you leaning?
Well, in the draft that we're preparing, no, we're not only giving the responsibility to the user. We will also institute certain responsibilities to social media platforms, especially if they fail to institute internal reporting mechanisms, verification mechanisms when certain posts are reported, and if they fail to also make sure that their users adhere to their agreed terms and conditions as well as social community standards. So we're even in the bill putting some responsibility even on the government or other state actors, considering that ultimately government has the responsibility of promoting social media literacy or digital literacy, because in the end this is more than just what can regulation can do. What this is more than what regulation can do. There is a need, of course, to institute to promote digital literacy. So what we're looking at is creating that ecosystem that builds on the strength of social media. We're not saying that social media should not be made available, that it should not be promoted. But what we're looking at is responsible use of social media. They used to describe social media as a social network. Unfortunately, in recent months, in recent years, instead of connecting people, it has been weaponized as a way for sowing division. And clearly, from how we look at it, this is something that even social media platforms should have the responsibility of ensuring that social media does not become a platform for further division, but it's used really for the purpose for which it was intended, and that is creating connections and hopefully affirming connections among individuals and users.
Pero sir, how much authority and power should government have in terms of regulating content, not just the platforms, but the content per se? I asked that kasi, well, you've talked about an oversight council and possibly an oversight board, in a way akin to what we have with the MTRCB. And MTRCB, of course, pre-reviews a lot of the content. But at the same time, the MTRCB has also come under fire for trying to regulate political content. I remember there were some cases where the MTRCB vetoed the release of some material because it did not agree with how government was presented in some of the material. There's also that concern that baka we might head that way then. Maybe not now, pero possibly eventually.
So going from free speech to censorship.
Sir Ed, I'm with you on that. No, definitely prior restraint or let's say. Restrictions on free speech shouldn't be the direction that we are taking. To be honest, that's why we're leaning towards looking as a structure, no, without going into specifics. The reason why we're looking into the community standards as well as terms and conditions, because we would like to believe these are the parameters for which the social media platforms are originally designed for, and those are the things, the aspects of social media that we'd want to keep. But anything beyond, anything that infringes upon, like per se, the reputation of private individuals, or let's say the integrity of our institutions, or peace and order, or national security, those are things that I think we should be able to address. Like for example, it's not wrong, no, to use social media to criticize a public official, because for me personally, that goes with the territory of public. That goes with the territory of being in politics. But then again, if that criticism is made on an unfair or let's say wrongful basis, or it's based on a fabricated basis, no, and it is directed towards a situation that it affects national security or peace and order, as in the case that was discussed during the committee hearing, I think we need to draw the line. I think we cannot allow something that can be used for far better things to be used to sow, let's say, trouble, or to sow disagreements among or violence or instability in our social and political institutions. I think that's very important.
Well, sir, don't get us wrong. We all agree on the need to fight disinformation and misinformation. But also, when you look at, for example, the revised penal code, there's an existing provision in the revised penal code penalizing false news. That's Article 154. I'm wondering where you intend to proceed beyond that. For example, in maybe in how one defines what is false or fake news. Will government be going into that? Will the government be going into this is what is false, this is what is true, and this is what is liable for penalties, and this is allowed under freedom of expression? Will we get to that part po ba? That government decides kung ano ang fake news at ano ang totoo?
I think it shouldn't be up to government to define such things. No, I think it should be up to the law to define such things, and government will be left with simply the power to exact regulations and implement them. For me, for example, no, although I would leave it later to the committee to further discuss the details or examine the details, but for me, like for example, free speech, I can think of two things that we cannot dispense with: the truth and fairness. You will be free to say as you please, but for as long as it's beyond, it's not truthful and it's unfairly presented or articulated, then I think that would warrant certain restrictions in terms of the responsibility. But what is critical is that we have to take into consideration the amplification that social media provides. I understand there is a provision in the revised penal code with regards to disinformation, no, or false news,
Yes, sir.
or false
154.
information. But the thing is, when that provision in the law was presented, we didn't have this platform of being able to actually post something on Facebook or on a social media platform, and all of a sudden have 10,000 or 30,000 people like or react or comment or engage. That has to be placed in the right context. I think it's not just a matter of whether we're free to say what we want, but it's important to look into consideration, especially when the nature of what you say can have varied consequences, especially when I want to avoid that notion that people just don't feel any accountability for what they write. I think that should be corrected. Kumbaga, siguro in simple terms, sana nandun tayo sa sitwasyon na pag gumamit ka ng social media, gagamitin mo rin yung sarili mong bait kung dapat bang isulat o hindi. And when what you wrote is going to harm not just individuals but society as a whole, though, there has to be some consequences.
Alam mo,
Because-
concretely,
Congressman, speaking of fairness and harm, kasi meron din mga nag-criticize nung TRICOM hearing ninyo na, and then they weren't all Duterte supporters, merong mga civil libertarians who expressed concern na nabully daw yata yung mga vloggers. Merong ganong criticism anong masasabi niyo doon?
Well, you know, in the course of the discussion of the committee, some people can be passionate, some people can be more empathetic with how they express themselves. But nonetheless, everybody would have their rights respected in the course of the hearings. And in any case, they can always appeal if they feel that they've been violated. In fact, there was one instance when one of the resource persons was asked if she feels like she's intimidated or harassed during the hearings. And I think that's something that they will have recourse to if they feel otherwise. But then again, personally, I have the reason to believe that they were given enough opportunity. Mahirap lang talaga i-depensa ang sarili kung alam mo nang mali naman ang ginawa mo.
But then, there was also instances when the resource persons were not allowed to finish their answers, right? There was a little bit of badgering going on. And we have to take a step back and recall that these resource persons were invited as resource persons. So what would you say to the criticism that this wasn't really meant to be an objective hearing, but that you guys were out to settle a score. In particular, with you, kasi alam ko si Grisette Laureta Chu has been criticizing you quite publicly as well, right? And so you finally had your...
To be honest, if I were to focus on how much she has, she would have, she had criticized me in the past, baka, I don't know, it would have been worse, no? Pero I made sure that my of course, I have to be reminded that I was there representing my constituency. I'm there not on my own personal, on my personal role, no? But of course, as I mentioned during the hearing, my main principle is that when it's a personal criticism, you can't complain about it. I've been saying that people in politics, we don't have the right to be offended, no matter how unfair, no matter how heated the criticism may be. But in the course of the discussion in the committee, sometimes there's an effort for the resource person to shift the discussion, to shift the narrative to their advantage. And that's what we've been, because we know these are people who do this very, very often. We know that there's always this tendency for them to hijack, so to speak, the course or the flow of the discussion. That's why we had to be very intentful. Once they've answered already and provided the response, we have to be quick to redirect. Because otherwise, if we leave them to speak, they would have to address issues that are not germane or not necessarily part of the course of the discussion during the committee hearing, during that part of the committee hearing.
Kung halimbawa, yung resulta, yung output naman, no, aside from the process, ano bang tingin nyo dun sa naging output? Halimbawa, some of the resource persons admitted while crying na sila nga ay naging purveyors ng fake news, no? Sayang wala din yung pulis na nagsabi na siya ay galit na galit, no, sa presidente at nag-hint siya na marami yung mag-resign. Pero anong tingin nyo dun sa output na ito? Kayo ba ay masaya? Paano yung mga hindi dumalo doon sa inyong pinatawag? May gagawin pa ba kayo para sila ay i-contempt o kasuhan, no?
Alam mo, Sek, kung I'll be honest, no, I'll be honest with you, kung makikita mo kabuuan ng issue ng fake news, I don't think there's any reason for you to be happy, ano? Nakikita mo yung lalim na, especially yung narinig ko na walang pakialam, they don't feel any accountability. Kasi from our own experience, nakikita mo naman how these influencers, in a way, are really able to shape behavior and thinking sa ating mga kababayan. And for people for them to say that they do not feel any accountability, sa totoo lang parang they were preying on the gullible. That's how I look at it, eh. Parang ginamit nila yung taong bayan, yung kakulangan siguro sa kaalaman, sa kakulangan siguro ng karanasan, no? Para magawa yung gusto yung layunin na gusto nilang makamit. And I think during the hearing, that is the thing that we were able to really present. We were really able to expose in a way that, you know, this social media influencers have their own agenda. They are not as benign. They are not as objective as they present themselves to be. And to a point, they are not as fair and truthful as they portray themselves to be.
Pero minsan kung may...
Yeah.
Minsan kung may thin line, eh. Halimbawa, pag sinabi nyo you have to be objective or purveyor ng fake news. Iba kasi yung, halimbawa, sinabi mo na mass resignation ng mga pulis. Iba yon. Dun sa, halimbawa, sabihin ko, these politicians are idiots. No? Yun, parang ganun eh. Yun yung concern minsan ng mga tao. Yung isa ay value judgment, yung isa ay talagang mali talaga, no?
And the question is, who gets to be the arbiter of that, of truth?
Okay. Una, doon muna ako sa tanong ni Sec Ed, no? Yung sinasabi niya na sang-ayon ako sa iyo, Sec Ed. Pag ang atake ay personal sa politiko, the people will be the better judge. This is not the only way by which we are judged. We're also judged by our performance, our output. So challenge na lang yun sa amin. How do we present also our side of the story? Now, ako, I've been consistent. I draw the line when it's a matter, like for example, as exactly described, no? Yung situation that affects national security, a situation that can cause political instability, that is something that we have to consider. That is something that should be addressed. Now, who should be the arbiter of this is definitely yung truth itself. I don't think truth would need any other judge, no, or arbiter other than the fact that it is really what happened. And I think the objectivity of that should be the final arbiter. At ganito naman kasi yon, ma'am, for me. Pwede naman talagang magkamali ang tao sa issue. Pwede naman nagkamali siya sa nasulat niya. But the willingness to take accountability is very important. And the willingness to correct oneself is very important. And also, different, not telling, being able to say something wrong, o di ba? Having a mistaken information is different from a lie. A lie kasi is knowing it
It's
to be
deliberate.
wrong, yet persisting, being persistent in presenting it as truthful.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that is
Sir.
for me something we need to consider.
Yeah.
Sir, super duper last question, sir. Sorry, pero pabol lang. The criticism that isang grupo lamang ang inyong in-invite itong mga pro-Duterte
sabi nga ni
vloggers,
Ami.
bakit daw hindi? For example, yung mga inakusang nagpapakalat ng fake news before na, for example, may Italiano gold daw o wala raw ill-gotten wealth ang pamilya Marcos and all that. So may ganun pong criticism na isang grupo lamang ang na-target.
To be honest, this information has been there since social media has been mainstream, no. At I don't think I agree with you. I don't think we should take into consideration sino or ano yung content for as long it's wrongful, for as long it's a lie, for as long as it's untruthful and unfair. I think we should address that.
Okay.
Whatever the political leanings are.
Okay.
But why we are focused on this particular side? Because I've never seen such concerted effort. Even the content, even the arguments, even the materials that they use, they all seem to come from one source. And for me, that is something that we really need to look into because this is more than random. This is hindi ako naniniwala na they post simply because Facebook says in the message box what's in your mind. Clearly there is an agenda and clearly weaponized social media, and that is the thing we need to look into.
Okay. We'll leave that there for now. We thank you so much for your time today. That
Salamat,
was
sir.
House Assistant Majority Leader, Congressman Jude Asidre.
Salamat ko.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
You are watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We've got developing news and the stories behind headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Regina Lay, and still with us, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit.
As we reported yesterday, the NBI is seeking Interpol's help to go after those peddling fake news. And to talk more about this, we have NBI Director Jaime Santiago. Sir, magandang hapon and welcome back to Storycon.
Magandang hapon, Director.
Yes,
Good afternoon.
magandang hapon po sa inyo. Magandang hapon po at sa mga nakikinig sa atin.
Well, sir, thank you for joining us. Sir,
Hi.
curious ako, sir, has there ever been a case where a country tapped Interpol to go after something like fake
Purveyors
news?
of
Oo.
fake news.
Again ho, medyo
Yes, sir.
hindi malinaw.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, sir.
Nag-e-echo.
Ay, may echo ba?
Nag-e-echo po.
Ay, nag-echo.
Okay na, konti na
Oo.
oras.
Sir, ano po, may pagkakataon ba in the past na isang bansa tinapang Interpol to go after purveyors of fake news o mga ganong klaseng kaso? Hindi ba mga major crimes lamang ang dinadaan sa Interpol?
Hindi po. Iba't ibang kaso po ang nakikipagtulungan ang Interpol. Kasi alam nyo, organization yan ng police organization ng bawat bansa, ay nagtutulungan po kami. Ganun po.
Yes, sir.
Director, balita namin ngayon, pati daw mainstream media, you are looking at mainstream media for purveyors of fake news. Pakidagdagan nga
Yes,
lang yung
actually po.
impormasyon namin yan.
Yes, actually po, meron tayo mga nasa mainstream media na dumalampas na doon sa parameter ba ng pagbibigay lamang nila ng comment. nakakakommit na sila ng libelous remarks or nakakapag-incite na sila or nag-ano sila, unjust fixation, nangiinis na, yung ganun po. Kaya yun po ang mga inaano namin, minomonitor yung mga ganyang bagay. Apo.
Kung sakasakali, Director, sino magiging complainant dyan? Kung walang private complainant, can NBI file a complaint?
Sa libel po ay kailangan mag-complain yung na-libel na tao. Pero sa inciting to sedition, ay kami po ang complainant doon. At saka tinitignan pa rin po namin yung anggulo na vlogger, kumikita sila sa depende sa number of views, nakakaroon sila ng pera. So nagbabayad ba sila ng tax doon sa kinikita nila? So we are also looking into yung tax evasion aspect. Ano po? Talagang seryoso po namin ang pag-iimbestiga ngayon dito.
Actually, you said you are monitoring at least 20 vloggers, no, Director? What do you mean by monitoring? You're monitoring their social media posts lang, or you're putting them under surveillance? And pangalawa, sino-sino po ito?
Yung media post lang po naman nila. Hindi naman kami maghahantong pa sa susundan namin yung tao, yung ano. Hindi naman po. Minomonitor po namin and actually po, matagal na namin ginagawa ito. Nakakompile po sa amin lahat ng kanilang mga press releases. Ayun po, from there ho, sinasala namin ngayon. Kasi alam niyo po, bilang dating hukom naman ako, nire-respeto ko po yung freedom of speech and freedom of expression natin. Meron naman na nagko-comment lang. Comment, opinion niya yun ang paniwala niya. Okay lang po yun. Huwag lang po lalampas na doon sa sinasabi ko na parameter. Yung nakakakomit na siya na nag-i-incite na siya ng sedition o nagla-libel na siya or unjustly nagbe-vex siya ng tao. Ganun po. Babalansihin po natin yan. Naiintindihan naman namin yung commentaries lang eh.
Pero hindi, sir. Pero Director, sir, wouldn't you be stretched thin kung pati yung unjust fixation, i-monitor po ninyo? Of course, ako personally, if it's against the law, then go ahead. Pero ang worry ko lang, baka kulangan kayo ng tao.
Sir, yung unjust fixation, the same with libel, kailangan yung na-unjust effect ay mag-complain. Saka yung nala-libel, kailangan mag-complain. Pero yung sinasabi ko, like inciting to sedition, at saka yung Article 154 ng Revised Penal Code, unlawful use of publication, ay yan po, ay kami po ang pwedeng magreklamo dyan.
Article 154. Sir, yung 154 po ba, has it ever been successfully used in prosecuting somebody for false news in the country?
Meron na po kaming nahuli, yung sa Cebu po. At hinarap po namin siya sa media at mga media nagtanong na talagang inamin niya, umiiyak pa siya, inamin niya na kumikita siya sa pagpo-post niya at nagagawa niya lamang yun para madagdagan ng income niya dahil walang trabaho asawa niya at yung anak niya ay may sakit. So humihingi po siya ng patawad at hindi na daw siya uulit. Hindi niya raw akalain na ganun pala kagrabe yung ginawa niya.
Ito sir yung last week, di ba?
Pinatawad niyo na po ba? Pinatawad niyo na? Nasaan na po siya ngayon?
Ay, nasa Cebu po, napailan na po siya ng unlawful publication. Yun lang po ang ipinail namin sa kanya. Mababa lang naman ang penalty noon. But then, it was napalabas through cyber. Kaya medyo tataas ang penalty. Parang aabot ng 6 years sa imprisonment kung sakaling mapatunayan.
So, Director, meron ba kayong written framework para i-distinguish yung legitimate freedom of expression at saka yung talagang purveyors ng fake news with malicious intent? Meron ba kayong ganyan
Yes
na pwedeng
po.
pinanggalingan nung final nyo o hiningin yung tulong sa Interpol para naman makita nung ating mga tunay na naniniwala sa freedom of the press, freedom of expression, para hindi sila masyadong kabahan?
Okay po. Hindi po sa pagmamalaki. Ang aking chief po ng cybercrime at saka ang chief ko ng Technical Intelligence Division ay pareho pong abogado. At meron pa kaming ilang abogado na we always sit down and talk about yung pinapakinggan namin, monitor. Kami po ang nagsasala. At ako po, sabi ko nga, bilang dating hukom, ay binabalansi ko lahat talaga. At ayoko naman na yung freedom of expression natin, freedom of speech ay makartail. Ayoko pong mangyari yun. Sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, yung nabanggit nyo kanina po na meron kahit sa mainstream media na binabantayan ninyo o minamatyagan nyo ngayon dahil medyo lumalagpas dun sa parameters kung ano po ang legal. Could you give us an idea po? I don't know if you can give us names or stations or newspapers.
Or outlets.
Pero at the very least, could you give us an idea
Hindi po
what
si
kind?
Edlingaw yun, ha?
Pero mga Philippine Star.
Wag lang po natin muna banggitin yung pangalan pero siya po ay talagang sobra na po ang kanyang mga pinagsasabi. Katulad po yung merong isang reporter ng isang channel, no? Hindi naman niya sinabi yung ganoon pero pinagsalitaan niya. Ang sasakit po ng salita niya, nagkataon kaibigan ko pa naman din, pero kung may magrereklamo, sabi nga nung tao na nasa Netherlands, pagbalik niya dito, dediretso siya sa NBI at magrereklamo. Yan pong bagay na yan, hindi po natin mapipigilan niya kung may nagrereklamo. At nabasa ko naman yung release niya, ay grabe naman po talaga. Iba ng klase. Opo.
Nabanggit nyo na rin yung Netherlands Director. What would you say to the criticism na this is, you're just going after pro-Duterte bloggers and content creators?
Hindi lang po Duterte followers, pati lahat po ng nagpapalabas ng maling impormasyon, nagke-create ng maling mga balita, ay iniimbestigahan po namin yan, titignan po natin yan.
Okay. We'll leave that there. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for your
Sir,
time
thank you
today.
po.
Salamat, Director.
NBI Director
Thank
Jaime
you,
Santiago.
Director.
Ay, salamat po sa inyo. Salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Ano ba yan? Sec?
Ay, magtago-tago na, Ed.
Istasyon daw.
Inciting to sedition daw, tsaka unjust vexation. Paano ba yan?
Baka yung unjust vexation.
Pwede pa.
Medyo
Delikado.
malapit-lapit tayo dyan.
Unjust vexation, araw-araw yata yung meron.
Kaya nga, Kuya Ali.
Tsaka,
Araw-araw kay Ronald
ano
Jones.
na, toxicity.
Yung toxicity, medyo malapit-lapit sa kanya.
Hindi si
Unjust
Ronald
vexation.
John.
Diba?
Naku, Ami, pwede ka pala mag-complain no unjust vexation si Ronald pagka yung comments niya sa outfit mo.
Pag hindi nag-unjust vexation yan, hindi si Ronald Llamas yun.
Ano man yun
Ano, parang gumuna na ba si Director ng NBI?
Qualitative yun yung unjust vexation. Kaya yun yung thin line Thin line.
When are you vexed and when is it rightfully vexed?
Baka kasuhan ako ni Manny Mugato
Okay, we'll leave that there. We're being told to wrap up. Thanks so much for joining Storycon today. Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.